Howdy, 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 everyone. How are we doing today? Okay? I hope we're doing good. I managed to get the day off, which was super dope. We love having the day off. You know, just kind of hung around today, didn't do much. Just chilled. Stick to your taco. Hello, how you doing? Oh, it's good to see you in here. All my homies hate cops, dude. Oh, that's what we're talking about today. That's what we're gonna do the news on, or you know, because why not? Why not cover this? Yeah, I think what we're gonna first do is we're gonna go over the first video I ever made on politics. I made it on my MacBook Pro on OBS that barely worked. Using the webcam, I think I used the webcam on. I might have used this new webcam, but it looks like shit. It looks like shit. But I covered the shooting of Walter Wallace Jr. here in Philadelphia, and we covered Joe Biden's response. This is before I could even live stream. This is before I got the PC. But you know, we're gonna cover everything that's going on in Joe Biden's current response to everything, right? On top of all of that, we're gonna cover Bernie Sanders' response to the whole thing. We're gonna cover all the progressives' response to the whole thing, how we're seeing some lackluster response from the people who we are entrusting, you know, our time and effort to be the ones strongest on this issue, Bernie included in that, you know. I'm trying to find Joe Biden's response. It's like hard to find stuff, man. And now it's like my brain is going, and I gotta pull up clips that I'm thinking of on the spot. But I have a bunch of stuff pulled up. But I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump right into the fucking news, okay? Let's do it. All right. I say we go forth and cover this upsetting news, okay? So, considering we've had multiple police killings and murders over the past couple of days, honestly, in the shadow of the trial, which should put the policeman who killed George Floyd away in jail for murder, if not first degree, then second degree murder, because it seems like you kind of fucking knew him to begin with. And on top of all of that, he could have prevented his death in literally any way. He could have done anything to prevent that death, and he chose not to. He chose to kill the man in front of a bunch of people, begging and pleading for him to stop, okay? So I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what anybody believes in here. We know that that is some absolute dog shit, okay? We know that that is unacceptable. We can see it on video. It made everybody with a rational brain say, yeah, that's completely unacceptable. Even the people who want to go out and defend the police will go and say that Derek Chauvin is a bad apple, and he is, you know, one of the standouts of bad policemen, and he, you know, he obviously has to go because he's not a representation of how good police should act in a situation like that. And he was surrounded by other police officers who did absolutely nothing about the situation, completely allowed it to happen. So we have Bernie Sanders here, a man who is made viral and famous for being dragged away by police officers for protesting something as simple as a housing being segregated by race, okay? Being segregated by race, which still happens today. Don't get it twisted. but I'm talking about literally on paper, provable instances, of fucking of just straight up segregation post when this is supposed to be outlawed, you know what I mean? And in his protest being, completely dragged away. And apparently serving a night in prison or some shit like that. So, a guy who should be of the correct opinion. Let's see what he has to say about this.
We want to talk about infrastructure with you in the Biden administration.
Let's get the headphones ready. I don't want to blow you guys out and get a delay going with the speakers because I'm dumb.
Talking about their infrastructure plans. But before we do, we just had a report and we have some pictures up from Brooklyn Center in Minnesota where a large number of demonstrators have gathered, and there's a police station that they are outside of now. Given what we've seen just in the last couple of days in terms of the death of another person at the hands of police and the Chauvin trial going on, can more be done?
This is a movie. This is a tragic movie that we have seen over and over and over again, countless times. And I think the word has got to get out. We need major police department reform. Lethal force has got to be the very last resort. We need police departments that reflect the demographics of the communities they serve. Police officers must be held accountable for their actions. And we need to redefine what police do. So there's an enormous amount of work that has to be done to make sure that police departments are constructive and not destructive forces within their communities.
Like, that's fine and a decent answer, my guy, but like, what steps are you gonna, try to introduce? Because at this point, we're way past borrowed time on this issue. We're way past it. There are way too many people, who have died at the hands of police just over the past week alone. And none of them were mass shooters. None of them, which we've also had multiple of over the past month, none of them were guilty of any sort of crime that would justify in the moment a police officer killing them, taking their life. So it just seems like an absolute fucking necessity that we do something about it right now, while we have the majority, while we have the Democrats elected in the positions of power. It's the only time we have to enact something right now, something that needs to happen. I don't care what it is. I literally don't give a shit what it is. It could be anything. It could be anything. At this point, I will literally take anything. I just want to know for sure that the Democrats are going to actually make a move on police reform and be serious about it. And that's why you need to keep saying things like we need to abolish the police, because you know what? At the end of the day, in situations like mental health episodes, which is, coincidentally in a situation where a lot of the time a police officer will kill somebody because they're acting irrationally, they're acting out of line. They might be armed with something like a knife, which is easy as fuck to acquire. You know what I mean? All right. A situation like that can be tended to if you retrain and repurpose, people to be able to respond to these episodes and be able to talk people down in a way that they're trained to do, and if not, have maybe some type of non-lethal, self-defense equipment. And you just don't need to show up to the situation armed. This is what happens when, especially not a police officer. And the problem is with the police, you have a complete and utter fucked up culture of people. Okay. And the issue with the culture is that it weeds out the good, the quote unquote good cop, the people that would be, in most people's eyes, lauded as, the cop who would do the right thing. They're delegated to fucking office duty. They're not out on the street doing, where they could potentially be blowing the whistle on other police officers who are doing something that is completely out of line. And if they don't, reform the police and their purpose and potentially start by disarming them or something big, there will never be change fast enough to get us to a point where there isn't fucking killings in the street every day. Every week you hear about a new one, and it's like, dude, how long are we supposed to sit here and fucking take this shit in and watch it? Like, I fucking, like, what the hell are we supposed to do? We elected a bunch of fucking Democrats, so let's get something done. I cannot believe that we're how long in, The
Biden, President Biden had campaigned on forming a commission on police reforms, on policing. Is that something you would like to see happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's a very long discussion, but the bottom line is that we need major reform in so many respects in terms of police departments all across this country.
On infrastructure, the Biden administration says it's open to negotiation around its $2 trillion infrastructure package. How confident are you that can actually happen when so many Republicans in Congress remain beholden to the former president and continue to peddle, the big lie and conspiracy theories? Do you trust them to negotiate?
Well, the devil will be in the details. And if Republicans are serious about wanting to create millions of jobs, rebuilding our crumbling roads and bridges and wastewater plants and so forth, that's great. If they are serious about working with us to transform our energy system.
Dude, what are you why every time I watch a fucking news clip when I do these streams, it's always like, if we're going to work with Republicans, why the fuck are we talking about why we're not going to work with Republicans? We have the potential to use the Senate Budget Committee and blah, 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 Chairman Bernie to force through legislation without the use of the filibuster, or we could just get rid of the filibuster right now, or if we put it up to a vote and put the pressure on people to make that shit happen, because it's time to at least reform it and change it. If we're going to keep it, at least change it back to the old way, or do something that provides us a step in the right direction with it, because right now it's holding up any potential legislation for us to pass, or it's one of the many things holding up our potential to pass legislation that could actually help people right now, and we're doing nothing about that. So all of these things are good and dandy if you can get Republicans to work with you on it. That's never going to happen. I'm sorry, but what fucking universe do you live in, dude? That's never going to happen. You're never going to get the Republicans to sign on any progressive legislation, whether it be something like an infrastructure bill, even something they agree with, unless maybe you can get them to agree to certain anti-war stuff, maybe, if you're lucky. But even then, I don't even believe there's support for it. So it's like, why are we sitting here trying to fucking appease them in the first place? This question, it should just be shut down the second it's asked. I'm tired of hearing my heroes here talk total nonsense about how we need to be working with Republicans in order to get any of this shit done. Regardless, do you think they're going to do anything with this for police reform, dude?
Them away from fossil fuel, so we can combat climate change. That would be great.
All
right. Frankly, between you and me, I have my doubts that will happen. But
no doubt.
Our goal is not to negotiate for a very long period of time. We have crises facing this country. We've got to create millions of good-paying jobs. We must combat climate change. You got to build millions of units and retrofit units of affordable housing. And in my view, when we talk about infrastructure, Anderson, we're not just talking about physical infrastructure, as important as that is, roads and bridges, etc. We're talking about human infrastructure.
And okay, so Anderson's going to push back on this. I don't know if this is some type of media thing that Bernie's trying out, like some sort of talking point that he thinks is going to like change people's minds on the infrastructure bill, but he needs to roll it back on this stuff, I think. But I could be wrong. Maybe he's hitting all the right notes here. He's trying to he's doing what he's really good at tying everything together. But like, this is an easily attackable point, even by somebody like Anderson Cooper, you know what I mean? Who's supposed to be, in a lot of people's eyes in America, they consider this to be a setup for a softball interview, whereas Anderson Cooper inherently is not going to like Bernie Sanders and is going to talk some shit to Bernie Sanders in his interview, as opposed to giving him softballs like everybody actually thinks, because he's liberal media or whatever.
Means, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's also, on that point, there is this battle going on right now to define what infrastructure is. You and other Democrats are arguing things like home health care, job training should fall under the umbrella of infrastructure. Those, you know.
Yeah, see, those aren't even the best things to connect to the infrastructure bill. Here's the thing. You tried to sneak the $15 into the COVID relief bill, which would have made sense because you think all these people have lost their wages. There are tons of people who've been out of work this whole time. Talk about the entertainment industry. Forget about it. They haven't worked for a year and a half now. A year and a half where the concerts haven't been happening, bars and clubs have been completely closed, performers haven't been able to perform, and in turn, people who, you know, do the setup for the performers, that entire economy has completely collapsed for an entire year with very low supplemental income coming to them. And any, you know, forget about it. Maybe a stimulus check once every couple of months, if not anything. And no tax return because you have to fucking employ yourself as an independent contractor in the first place just to get these jobs. So you're not getting paid. You're potentially paying a lot more come tax season than literally any of your friends, and you're not getting a tax return back. You're not getting fucking anything back. And these are the people who don't, you know, they're driving Lyft, again, a service where you have to sign yourself up as an independent contractor. They're not working as an employee anywhere, you know, and you could have tied the $15 minimum wage into that bill. Rhetorically, it makes sense. Now, again, you can rhetorically tie it to the infrastructure bill, because if your plan is to provide a bunch of jobs for people, right? With an infrastructure bill, think the Green New Deal or something, and if you're going to get it watered down by a Joe Biden administration, so it's not the Green New Deal anymore, then you have something akin to, I don't know, just a jobs program, but something that allows you to potentially build up your roads, your bridges. I know this sounds fucking reductive and annoying, and you hear it all the time, but this shit is graded super fucking low in this country. If you go to other countries, if you go to Europe, they have beautiful infrastructure. Not only is it nice to look at, which is cool and you know, uplifting in its own way, it's very functional and doesn't. Okay, I live in Pennsylvania. They don't take care of the fucking roads here. You know how much damage over even just short term that'll do on your car, and how much it is to repair your car, you know? And then all that money ends up going right to that. And that's just because they don't fill the fucking potholes, okay? I'm talking about the potential airplane disasters at shitty infrastructure airports, international airports that are dog shit, and there's potential for disaster everywhere. And that's not on anybody else's fault. There needs to be some funding and some people brought in to do this work. And it's a great idea to do these types of programs or whatever. But if you're going to employ all of these people, if you're going to deploy, you know, all of these people across the country to repair all of this shit, there needs to be at least a $15 minimum wage. I mean, because these people need to get paid very well. I mean, on top of it, if they're going to get paid for a job that, you know, potentially you could just go and sign up for and just go and get, then we should have a good baseline for the workers who have been working this whole time through this whole pandemic, doing minimum wage work, like working at fast food restaurants or whatever it is, whatever it may be, where you get minimum wage or below $15 an hour anyway. It needs to be at least $15 anyway. And coming off of such a disastrous economy and you know, fucking global pandemic that has completely decimated the way that we operate in any way, not just like the economy or, you know, politically or socially or whatever, just literally has changed everything about our lives. And you're not even willing to frame it like people deserve this money no matter what bill we put it in. You know, it has to be like, oh, well, we can get the Republicans to work. It's like, dude.
Are there others who say those are clearly not infrastructure? Is the definition accurate?
I think the definition of infrastructure are the goods and services and structures that maintain a society. And when you define infrastructure in that way, to me, if a mom and dad go to work in the morning, you know what? They have the right to know that their children, their little kids, are going to be in quality childcare that they can afford. When I talk about infrastructure, I am talking about the fact that today in America, it's unbelievable. You got millions of senior citizens who have no teeth in their mouth, unable to digest the food that they are eating. They cannot hear well and are isolated from their kids and grandchildren and their communities. They can't hear. And people have trouble seeing because the cost of dental care, the cost of eyeglasses, the cost of hearing aids is astronomically high. And we got to deal with that. And that's why I am fighting to expand Medicare to include dental care, eyeglasses, hearing aids, lower the age of eligibility for Medicare to 60. And we pay for that by finally having the courage, Anderson, to take on the greed.
Yeah, I mean, this is all basic shit. I mean, how have we not pressured the Democratic Party enough to do something about our healthcare situation? This is an issue that could be tackled right now because of COVID-19, and it needs to be an issue that's brought to the forefront anyway, you know? But here we are sitting around with our thumb up our ass trying to get back to normal when it's literally impossible right now, even if we all get vaccinated. Shout out to the vaccinated out there. I've been gifted with round 2, and I felt like shit for a day, and now I'm back, baby. We feel good. We feel better. That's how it works, and that's okay, you know. But I just want to say that, you know, yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have been able to get it or phased in early to get it, but, you know, I hear it's opening up for everybody, and I hope you're, you know, able to get one sooner rather than later. Anyway, we're moving on here.
Of the pharmaceutical industry, which charges us by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. So if we can have Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices, we will save approximately $450 billion over a 10-year period, which will enable us to expand Medicare and provide dental, hearing.
Yeah, I mean, here it is again. The argument is going to always be that Medicare for all saves everybody, including the government, money over time. Over 10 years' time, it's supposed to save a fuck ton of money. You can look this up. It's a study by the Mercatus Institute, which is a Koch brothers funded libertarian think tank. They found out over certain, I think it was a 10-year long period of time, that Medicare for all would save the country money. Okay. That's them speaking, not me. Okay. You can look that up. I would pull it up, but I got other shit I want to cover, you know. I gotta keep going. But it's going to save you money, dude. It's going to save you personally money, and it's going to save the country. Also, it's going to save the country money, dude. So why are we arguing about it? It's going to help people. It's going to make people less stressed out, and less people are going to go to the hospital for even fighting each other. It's going to clog up that section of the hospital.
Hearing aid and vision care, and lower the cost, lower the age of eligibility. So to my mind, what infrastructure is about, it's not only physical infrastructure, it is human infrastructure. It is understanding that we have a life expectancy in this country. We don't talk about it very much. 39th in the world. And for lower income and working class people, the numbers are even worse. So when we talk about human infrastructure, it means doing what many countries around the world have done for years. And that is provide the basic health care and child care and paid family and medical leave that their families require.
Yeah. Senator Sanders, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, dude, again, this is not like. First of all, he barely even addressed. He barely even addressed the fucking police murders, but I don't know, man. It's one of those things where I'm expecting these people to push back harder right now. I'm expecting them to make something happen to impress us in a moment where the last time something like this happened and the last time some crazy shit like this popped off, the entire country basically went to war with the police, okay? Even good-meaning, suburbanites were ready to fucking beat the ass of authority, okay? And so you see Bernie kind of not really address the issue there. He doesn't really say much, but CNN decided to bring up the fact that Bernie Sanders and the squad, or at least members of the squad, Rashida Tlaib specifically, disagree when it comes to abolishing the police, or even just using the phrase abolish the police, which to me is a giant weirdo red flag moment, because you're thinking to yourself, like, I say abolish the police. I say it because it's cool to say, but I also understand the implications of it. And I also understand that it's not a realistic thing to get to overnight, and that it's not something that's just going to happen without an appropriate amount of adjustment and changes to the way things operate right now. And the idea is that when I think abolish the police, if you were to abolish the police in America, my idea is you bring their power down to about the amount of power a police officer has in Europe, okay? If you go to Europe, a lot of police officers don't carry guns, specifically a lot of the beat cops, the ones who are in the communities, the ones who are supposed to be there every day of the community, you're supposed to know that, are supposed to make people feel safe. Those ones specifically do not carry guns. And I can't find any good reason for that not to be a thing in America, to at least have a bunch of people. There should be people in the police force who are willing to go into these communities without guns. There should be a select group of people who sign up to do this type of work, right? But they weed those people out. They make sure that those people do not succeed, or that they are sidelined, or they're ridiculed until they fucking quit and do something else. That's the culture of policing in America. That's the reality of it. I don't care what anybody has to say. That's how it works. Okay. But Bernie Sanders is not even okay with people rhetorically using the term abolish the police, or the phrase rather, which I think is just ridiculous. Like, why are you trying to neuter people to the left of you? You know that there's always going to be people to the left of you, especially now that you're like basically just a Democrat. You understand the implication, Bernie. What is the point of trying to put it down? Listen to the extremely valid. The people have extremely well thought out, broken down, ideas out there that you can totally look up, and there's people who put a lot of thought into how you could do this, and there's many different viewpoints. What I'm saying is I support the idea of abolishing the police over a period of time and replacing them with a new thought out idea of a police force, maybe even renaming them or restructuring the idea of how state and county police work in this country. And I'm not talking about replacing them with a federal police force or anything. I'm just saying completely rethink the culture and structure of policing and replace the people who are, currently in power. But yeah, apparently Bernie Sanders has a problem with people who say things like that, which I think is just like a total fucking disappointment. But at least you have members of the squad willing to go out and say, you know, abolish the police and make the argument. I will say that I think it's good that the squad will push Bernie from the left, but when it comes down to actually laying down some truly necessary, you know, holdout votes or deciding that they're going to use their leverage to actually make the other Democrats look bad or whatever, they just kind of toe the party line and make it work for them. So at the end of the day, how useful is it really to criticize Bernie from the left but not do anything about it in the House, you know? But here we go. We have CNN taking note of this and doing some commentary on it. Now I'm going to do some commentary on the commentary because we hate the way CNN frames a lot of this type of left infighting. They use it to their advantage, which I think sucks because we all know CNN is a center-right platform. There's nothing liberal about this. The fact that they're not outright racists like some of the Fox News hosts, or perform racist rhetoric, however you want to put it. They just don't do that openly. But that doesn't mean that their politics are leftist or liberal, even by any means. So let's see what they have to say.
Now, one question keeps coming up after these deaths. Is police reform the answer? One Democratic lawmaker says no. Instead, Representative Rashida Tlaib wants policing to be stopped altogether, calling it inherently and intentionally racist. But her fellow progressive, Senator Bernie Sanders, tells CNN that isn't the solution.
No, I don't. I think that what we need to do is to understand that there needs to be major police reform all across this country. We are tired of seeing the same thing.
Bernie, that's literally what people are fucking saying when they say this, dude. They're not saying delete police overnight, dude. That's why you're misframing what other people are saying when you do this shit.
Week after week and year after year. We do not.
People who have been on the ground and really have given a lot of thought into this, mind you.
I want to see innocent African Americans shot in cold blood. So I think that is an area that needs significant amount of work, and I hope that Congress begins work on that immediately.
Now, one question keeps coming up after these deaths. Is police reform the answer? One Democratic lawmaker says no. Instead, Representative Rashida Tlaib wants policing to be stopped altogether, calling it inherently and
saying it wasn't an accident. Police in our country is inherently and intentionally racist, or policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Dante Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed.
Intentionally racist.
Bro, it like literally doesn't even say that. It doesn't even say like abolish the police in this tweet.
But her fellow progressive, Senator Bernie Sanders, tells CNN that isn't the solution.
No.
Like, that's not even what she fucking said, dude. She's criticizing exactly the same thing I'm criticizing, which is the culture of policing, which is allowing this type of shit to get covered up, or their attempts to immediately cover up the situation or make it look better than it actually is. What's your problem, dude? We have best friend of Bernie Sanders, Cornel West, with his opinion on the matter, and let's see if it differs, because I'm going to assume that it definitely is going to, or I certainly hope it will, because that was...
The question becomes, how do we work on the inside of a system? Because the system is a failure. We know that. All investigations and so forth, they can spend months and months on that. It is failing black people. So the question becomes, what is the response? Do we come up with our own forms of protecting each other? Do we generate mechanisms of accountability for police and others who are killing black people? We cannot just have conversations over and over again about this must stop, this must stop. No, we need more than that.
I mean...
So
The question becomes, how did we work on the inside?
Yeah, I mean, what is the alternative? You know, do you split it up and make it smaller, or do you repurpose it, or do you disarm it to a certain degree? I definitely think we have to take away the military surplus gear and the militaristic presence that they have in situations of non-violent, protests of violence. You're going to show up in a fucking surplus tank that didn't make it to Iraq to demonstrate your power over people doing nonviolent protesting, or even just to demonstrate your power over somebody throwing a fucking brick at something. That's just unrealistic, and super fucking crazy that it's just become such a normal thing. Because you look at other countries that do that and you think to yourself, man, I'm so happy I don't live there. They're doing it here. They're just like covering it up with just weird language that they allows them to get away with it. It's hilarious. Anybody who trusts the way the police work, dude, they're flipping TV evangelicals, and they're making them out to be the good guy. Because here we have Pat Robertson. He kind of looks like that, and so I just started blasting meme. He looks pretty funny here. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I kind of love that. All right. Yeah, let's do this. I'd update the stream info real quick, but let's talk about what he has to say about this, because I'm stunned. He had something to say about this, but I know he's been kind of good about making right on a lot of the shit he's said in the past right now. That's kind of what he's doing. But let's see.
As I say, they're not making tasers in this yellow color anymore. They're making in black. They're making them yellow. Now, how she made the difference was she shot that poor guy to death, saying, "This is what I thought. I thought was my taser." And if you,
I watched a longer video of this earlier, and he goes into earlier right before this, he's describing the weight difference between these two things, and it's just like exponentially different, like so crazy different that like you obviously are going to notice. And on top of that, apparently you wear the taser across the other side of your body, so like going to pull your taser and going to pull your gun are two instinctually different things, So anyway,
can't tell the difference in the feel of those things. It's crazy. Anyhow, she deserves, but I am pro-police, folks. I think we need the police. We need their servants, and they do a good job. But if they don't stop this onslaught, they cannot do this. The police in Virginia picked up a lieutenant in the Army and began to give him trouble.
Yeah, I mean, that video is really fucked up. And I didn't even realize that he was a lieutenant. To be a lieutenant, you've been in it for so long. You've been doing it for a long enough time to get promoted to lieutenant. And you're genuinely terrified of the police, like, screaming at you while you're in uniform, Absolutely insane. Oh, excuse me. Insane.
And our state police are highly trained.
If they're so highly trained, though, like they are probably trained over time after their initial training. I assume their training, it has to be updated at some point, right? But where in that training does it teach you to de-escalate anything? Like Pat Robertson, dude. If you were to look him up right now, he's not a very rational character. You know, he doesn't come from a world where he's constantly having good takes like that. We live in upside down world, everyone. It's super dope.
Why they don't stop this, and this thing is going on in Minnesota, but the Derek Chauvin, I mean, they ought to put him under the jail. He has caused so much trouble.
Is there a link to this whole thing? Because I would love to watch it. Yo, I was gonna talk about Reuters putting their shit behind a paywall. It's so stupid.
By kneeling on the death of George Floyd, it's just, I mean, on his neck. It's just terrible what's happening. And the police, why don't they open their eyes to what the public relations are? They've got to stop this stuff.
Maybe they need more training, consistent training.
I
don't
think
mean training.
The problem is.
That's what I was saying though, but like even if you do consistent training, it's not going to change the culture of policing. And the culture of policing is to basically straight up ignore the training or do the opposite of what the training tells you.
You've got to pay them more. We don't have the finest in the police department. They're low-paid people, Terry. They don't get adequate. It's not a question of training. It's a question of hiring a more superior workforce, and we aren't doing it.
Yeah, I mean, is the argument pay the police officers that are currently serving more money? No, it's not. But the idea, potentially, is to reform the police to a point where you only need something like a SWAT team, and they are compensated well, and the people who are then doing simple stop jobs are not armed or are only armed with non-lethal force. I understand that this isn't going to work if you're busting, say, a bunch of drug dealers who are armed and ready to go. You know what I mean? But you can simply eliminate those things by decriminalizing drugs across this country. Or you could simply eliminate, there's a lot of issues that are created, that create violence between a faction and the police that can be completely eliminated by just decriminalizing all drugs across the United States and not getting arrested for being in possession of them. It would just create a lot less tension and a lot less police violence, what people would justify as necessary police violence. And we don't do that. We haven't done that. We don't even advocate for marijuana legalization at the federal level. Like most, it's just not going to happen anytime soon. And those are the things that need to happen, all at the same time. It's not just about the training.
But we need police. We need them, and we need to honor them, and I'm all for it. But at the same time, we cannot have a bunch of clowns running around who are underpaid and who really are not the best and brightest. We've got to have the best in there. Ephraim?
Yeah, like, just eliminate the violence of the police force and replace them with people who are competent and empathetic, and on top of that, compensate them well for their work. So they're not a bunch of people who are, making less than, 80 grand a year, and they're fucking working overtime just to try to like get by. And on top of that, like working overtime as a police officer, I can imagine only creates more tense situations for people who are maybe just catching the cop on a bad day. I'm not doing police apology, but like, anybody who works over 40 hours, knows what it's like to be fucking tired, dude. Wipe this bad boy. Ugh. But yeah, I just, I'm not saying pay the police more right away, but like the idea of changing the idea of police and getting them to function differently and then paying those different types of functions more to do the job that they're doing is a step in the direction of abolishing the police if you frame it the right way. So it's all about framing, folks. You just make it about you every time. If you want to argue, just make it about you. Just make it about you. Make it personal. That's the key. All right. Let's see what the crazy...
I don't think they're going to get the reform.
Oh, sorry. Let's see what the crazy libertarian has to think. Fox Business former libertarian vice president candidate Spike Cohen. Apparently, case study agrees with the libertarians' take on what they have to say about this. So I'm actually curious. Let's see what they have to say. I trust Case Study. I like the work that they do, and I think they have good judgment based on the clips that they make for everybody to use. So I will listen with open ears. Let's go.
Reforms that the people who are at the forefront of the reform movement, they're not going to get that, Spike. I don't think they're going to get the reforms that the people who are at the forefront of the reform movement, they're not going to get that, Spike.
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. I mean, the reality is this. The federal government does this with everything. Whenever there's a crisis, they say, well, the problem is we need more money. Well, if that were the case, then why did it get worse when you got more money? We need to defederalize the police and get the police back into the hands of the communities who have to live with whatever the policies are. More importantly, we also need to hold bad actors in government, including the police, accountable when they do that. And if we did something similar, we'd be held accountable just like they should be. And also, we need to get rid of the police unions. They are such a big part of this problem. Here's the reality, Kennedy.
I'm so glad you said that because...
Wait, what the fuck, dude? What's going on here? What's going on here right now on Fox News right now? Or is this Fox Business? Why are we all agreeing with this guy? Because yeah, I agree 100% with what he just said. There's a part about him trying to like divest it just to the states or whatever, but like everybody needs to work together in order to get this thing just to be fixed. It's not like we just get rid of the federal government and the police is going to get fixed. I think potentially you do that and it's going to get worse because right now they're directly involved and everybody needs to work together in order to fix this problem, I think. But aside from that, especially the part about getting rid of the police unions, I mean, shit, I was not expecting him to say that. And I'll take that 100%. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the fact that she's blowing off right now, like, hell yeah, dude.
As pissed off as I am at teachers' unions, that's how I feel about the police union.
What? Dude, wait. What? Did she just say? Wait. Okay, so wait, this was funny.
So glad you said that because as pissed off as I am at teachers' unions, that's how I feel about the police unions.
What the fuck are you talking about? Excuse me? You're pissed off at the teachers unions for the same reasons you're pissed off at the police unions. Why? Police unions work overtime to make sure that the cops who murder people in cold blood a lot of the time, straight up cold blood, get away with doing that. And the teachers unions argued to potentially get teachers a better wage. Is that and you have a problem? You're gonna equate those two things right now? That's awesome. That's sick. Never mind. I was about to give her credit, be like, what? I was literally like, where's she going with this? Oh, we see. Now we see where she went. Okay.
Compounding the problems. They are not invested in solutions. Go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your show. If you or I...
he's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
...accidentally shot someone instead of tased them, we would immediately go to jail and immediately be held accountable. At no point would we get to go home and have a police guard and have barricades put up around our house to protect us from people. The reality is this is what happens when people in power are not held accountable, period. Yep. We need to stop looking at this as a problem that government can solve. The only way they can solve it is get out of it and put it back in the hands of the communities so they can decide what their police policies look like.
Hey, we make police accountable to communities instead of to the mayor. We're on the right track, I guess. You could do something like that. Which I actually see case studies saying something about in the replies here. I'd rather see police controlled by community boards that are closer to the community. 100%, dude. They need to be accountable to the people they serve, and that's pretty much it, if you ask me. I don't know why they have to be accountable to the boss, the fucking mayor. And we elected some people who are supposed to be experts on this, right? We're supposed to be the ones that we can turn to and be like, they're always going to have a good take on this issue. They're the good leftist members of Congress and the Senate. We already see now with Bernie Sanders where that gets us occasionally. Still capitulating to the party line. Still doing the thing where you don't sound too radical to what you think is the, standard American, whereas the standard American is ACAB. I don't care who you are. To the white-collar suburban people doing white-collar crimes, ACAB. You want to know why? Because they could get picked up for doing, insider trading. ACAB. Hillbillies are the original ACAB, dude. I mean, maybe not, but they were up there. They loved fucking with the cops, dude. That was like a half of the TV shows. Now, you see them try to reframe it, and the people buy into it. But culture is ACAB, dude. Nobody wants to get picked up by the police, no matter what you're doing. Even if you're doing crimes. Yeah, fuck it. I'm doing crimes. Don't fucking bother me, dude. Fuck the police. Okay? And we are in a position where we have like 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on who you talk to, members of Congress who will basically say the same thing. Okay? Which is great and all, but they don't ever apply any serious pressure to make that shit happen. They just don't do it. And here we have John Boehner, okay? Talking about the squad. The people I got him in my sights. John Boehner's got him in his sights. We're both clearly bad actors. That's how we do it here on the stream.
Write about this in your book.
Let's see what the homie has to say.
Here's an excerpt about the squad. You say the squad on the left, meanwhile, has a policy agenda, a radical one that smart Democrats know is unrealistic, unworkable, and alienating to the rest of the country. These people command a large social media and press following, so Pelosi has to argue with them about tactics and policy, which is a heck of a spot for her to be in. By the way, I can tell you with absolute certainty, she knows they are a bunch of kooks. With the House Freedom Caucus that you write about as well, it seemed to me those differences were more tactical than policy. But when it comes to the squad and Pelosi, it seemed like even policy-wise, like even on defund the police, they're way far apart.
Well, there's no question about that. And when you look at Biden's so-called infrastructure bill, it's kind of a wish list from the Progressive Caucus. Very little of that money he's proposing has anything to do with what we would call infrastructure.
Dude, the infrastructure bill isn't even a quarter of what progressives actually want to put forward when it comes to things like the Green New Deal, which falls right under the infrastructure tagline, okay?
Roads, bridges, rail, airports, the things that over the years I called infrastructure. And so it's a wish list for them. But at some point, the Biden administration is going to have to decide whether they want to get some things accomplished or whether they want to be stuck in this stalemate. We've got a 50-50 country. We've got a 50-50 Congress. And Joe Biden barely won the White House. And so trying to work your agenda in a partisan way, frankly, just isn't going to work.
There are literally systems in place right now to allow that to work, John Boehner. You fucking jerk off, dude. Oh, I'm glad I don't have to see his dumbass face every day. But he makes a good point where he knows that Pelosi doesn't take the squad seriously or refuses to acknowledge that the squad is a potential serious force in the way of her passing anything on her agenda. They are. If they were to come together and say we're not gonna vote for something, that shit would not pass. Let's not get it twisted. That's a serious threat, and you can use that leverage in order to put certain things in the bill if you want. If you wanted to play that game, which they will happily play that game every time. The Freedom Caucus or whatever they talked about, I think they mentioned them in this video. They use their leverage as right-wing Democrats in order to get their shit passed. They threaten not to vote for Pelosi. They threaten to do all of these things that are supposedly, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, or else it's gonna, break decorum or make it potentially hard for, anybody to get anything ever. It's total dog shit. It's a total dog shit argument, okay? It falls apart on its face. But anyway, everybody's apparently talking about how Nancy Pelosi and the squad don't get along. Apparently, there's a fucking book coming out about it. A new book covering Pelosi's disdain for the squad.
Speaker Pelosi reportedly unloads on the squad in an upcoming biography. An excerpt, here it is. Pelosi unloads on the squad, at one point adopting a childlike voice when discussing Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and offers the squad this blunt advice. You're not a one-person show. This is the Congress of the United
States. The fucking gall to put this quote in this book. Look at this book. I mean, on its face, it's genuinely a funny thing to do. Because, look, this is all about you, okay? That's all this is about. This is all about you, dude. So I don't want to hear it.
United States. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Texas.
As if you don't have enough money, we're talking about Nancy Pelosi here, who's already a multi-millionaire, and on top of that, makes money off the stock market, knowing what's going to happen in the stock market before it happens. And right now, she's currently doing that. Like literally right now. Like it just came out. Every time there's a filing of their finances, it comes out that she knew about something that was going to happen in the stock market that made her money, and they're going to fucking. How is that legal?
Tennessee joins us now. No love lost, it seems, between these two, Senator. But AOC...
And now she's going to sell a book. It's going to be a bestseller.
She has enormous power, doesn't she?
She has power in the social media realm, but Stuart, she was just voted one of the least effective members of Congress. And I find it so interesting that Pelosi ended up going chief mama in charge on the squad, because this isn't reality TV. This is the American people. This is the U.S. taxpayer. This is the business of the U.S. Congress. And the rules that are put in place, the laws that are made, the regulations that are set, affect the daily lives of the American citizen, and also it affects the environment in which business can take place in this country.
You think that AOC will begin to take more of a backseat, or will she continue to lead the progressives?
Her leadership is on social media, and even though many of her policies are far-fetched, they kind of revert back to things she probably talked about with people as she was waiting tables there in the bar, and she
in the bar
felt as if she had answers for solutions for different problems. But the point is, Stuart, in order to get things accomplished, you have to work with those on each side of the aisle. Just talking about an issue does not get it done.
Just talking about an issue doesn't get it done. What do you think she's doing, like, as a congressperson? You think she's not working to, like, I'm not an AOC defender by any means, but it's just like, What a vapid disagreement. It has nothing to do with anything. It's not even a valid defense of your ideas. The book is going to be boring as fuck. It's not exactly going to cover just the arguments between Pelosi and the squad, mind you, but it's definitely an indulgent thing to do right now. And I think that is just ridiculous to expect people to want to like read a book about your personal dealings when like there should be books about everybody's personal dealings right now if you want to talk about how fucking insane things are and how much people have to struggle just to get through their day to day. And you, Nancy Pelosi, think it's important that people hear your side of the story right now? Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit, dude. All right. I was dreading All right. I was dreading doing this, but we're going to do it. I haven't watched this yet. This is Jimmy Dore on Tucker Carlson, everybody's favorite Fox News host. On top of everybody's favorite Fox News host, it's literally everybody's favorite cable news show. All right, so we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this thing. Okay, we're gonna talk about it. And we're gonna see how we feel about this appearance. Okay. So give me 5. I'm gonna use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Hello, hello, hello. Actually, before we pull this up, I just want to make the point here, okay? Clearly, the police are out of line doing what they do a lot of the time. They abuse their power in situations where they don't need to in order to meet quotas that don't really matter. It's all about their ego. It's all about making themselves feel better. Okay? Don't get it twisted or confused. It's not to serve anybody other than themselves, okay? That's why they behave this way. It's proven. And again, we did the same thing with the Iraq War, okay? We did the same thing with the Iraq War coverage, where at the end of it all, we looked at what Jon Stewart, the bastion of hope when it comes to political takes on television, what he had to say about it, okay? And what he had to say about it was that the Warhawks had better arguments. That was the punchline of his joke. Okay? And that was awful. It wasn't even funny. Wasn't funny. Wasn't good. Literally just a bad take all around, dude. Just sucked to hear him say that. And I was too young to even care about what Jon Stewart had to say. But if I was old enough to listen to him, maybe that would have impacted me in some sort of negative way down the line, where I wouldn't have changed my thinking until way later. Would really fucking suck. Could have been a good opportunity for him to stop the show and make a statement about how fucked up the Iraq War was. We were about to go to war over nothing. Over bullshit. But instead, he supported the arguments of Warhawks. And so here we're going to have our literal boy Trevor Noah.
And the stories make you worry about South Africa. You think everything's going wrong out here. Because they don't report the news well. It's sensationalism. Like Marikana, the Lonmin disaster. What? Oh, I didn't even know what was going on there. You just read the news and you're like, what? They shot them for dancing. But it wasn't. It was the police versus the miners, and they wanted money, and it was a sad situation. No one really knows what happened. But everyone has an opinion. I like this. Everyone knows what should have been done. You know, people on the radio, people on the news. Yeah, you know, these bloody police have gotten out of hand. They're busy shooting people, and why didn't they use rubber bullets? Why didn't they use rubber bullets and tear gas? Because those things don't work anymore. They use the...
I mean, dude, he's legitimately not even doing comedy that deserves a punchline right now. Like, this is like not even people aren't even laughing at him right now because it's not funny. Once it starts being like, oh yeah, police should have the right to kill you, it stops being funny.
The whole week, and they couldn't control people, so they had to come with ammunition because those guys had weapons. Plus, tear gas is a waste of time. Which strike has ever...
This is the voice of somebody who's just doing cover for people. Like, it's easily identifiable, folks.
Ended because of tear gas. Where have you ever heard that on the news? And after the police deployed the tear gas, everybody went home. No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Tear gas has just become part of a strike now. It's like a little smoke machine. It's just like,
Oh, so that's the protesters' fault, right?
Adds ambiance to the atmosphere. It's just, you're wasting your time with tear gas, man. Everyone has ideas what the police should have done. You hear them on 702. You know, the sad thing is they didn't even warn the miners first. Why didn't they warn them? When someone has a gun pointed at you like this, is that not a warning anymore? My favorite was the National Union of Mine Workers. They said, what is the worst thing in this circumstance is that the police did not even ask the miners what they wanted. Before they should have asked them, what did they want?
Like, dude.
At what point do you ask these people? At what point? And pray do tell, who is the super soldier that's willing to keep his cool when 1,000 men marching towards him with arm? They've got spar, they've got pangas, they've got spears. Who is the super soldier?
They've got spears, dude. Is this real? This is a real argument he's making. He's like passionately making this argument instead of doing a funny bit at the comedy show.
He was keeping his cool in this situation, just standing there with his 20 fellow policemen. You know, the sergeant there, ready, aim. He's like, whoa, 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 sergeant, sergeant. Can't just shoot, my man, can't just shoot. Don't charge. You don't know what these guys want, my man. What's wrong with you, eh? It's ridiculous. That's what it is. Absolutely ridiculous.
Ew, dude. People are getting DMCA'd for that, apparently, which is just so ridiculous, dude. But there you have it. There you have it. That's ridiculous, okay? Just running cover for police, telling their side of the story in a comedy bit. Or you should just be making fun of them because they're police and they're easy to make fun of anyway. Why you gotta make fun of the people they're literally killing? And apparently he doesn't like that clip getting passed around now that he has a new job. But why should he care? Jon Stewart has just as awful takes on such serious issues. There's no reason to be ashamed. He did it on his show, on the show that you're currently hosting. So why worry about it? But anyway, here we go. We have what everybody came here for today. The tasty Jimmy Dore on Tucker Carlson. And this is criticism of AOC and free speech. Okay, it's a 4-minute segment. It's pretty long for Jimmy Dore on Tucker. Let's see what he has to say, dude.
Jimmy Dore is an extremist. We know that because he has disagreed with Ocasio-Cortez, but we're still proud to have him
Jimmy Dore's face.
Jimmy Dore is an extremist. We know that because he has disagreed with Ocasio-Cortez, but we're still proud to have him on tonight. Welcome, Jimmy Dore, you extremist. So what do you make of this? What do you make of this story?
Well, if you give politicians the mildest criticism on Twitter, you expect to get the cops knocking on your door, I guess. I mean, is that not intimidating? Is that not chilling for free speech? You know, it wasn't too long ago, Tucker, that I was pushing a thing called Force the Vote, which was trying to get the progressives in Congress to withhold their vote from Nancy Pelosi to force her to bring Medicare for All up for a vote on the floor. And I was criticizing them because they ran on doing such a thing. They ran on confronting the establishment power in Nancy Pelosi, and they wouldn't do it. So I was telling people to stop protecting her. And she said, that's not tone, that's violence.
And look, that's a pretty watered down version of everything that went down. But truly, at the end of the day, what Jimmy Dore, exactly what he's saying right now, was he was putting pressure on the squad to do something in the wake of having to vote in Pelosi, because obviously, look, we all knew they were going to vote Pelosi in. There was nobody who was actually trying to get Pelosi's job, and on top of that, nobody wanted. Look, that was just how it was going to go down anyway. What Jimmy Dore was saying was, in a moment like that, where you could, there was a situation where everybody was pretty much in agreement this was going to go down. In the last minute, why not make an argument or a case for something that you need and just rock the boat a little bit? What are they going to do? Are they going to assassinate you? Probably not. You're probably going to get it in the last minute, because why not just slip it in there anyway? Why not get a couple of brownie points? Look, they didn't do anything when Nancy Pelosi was getting reelected. They didn't even try. And their argument against the Jimmy Dore force the vote thing, which a couple of people kind of picked up on and pressured the politicians to actually speak on, Justin Jackson being the one who really actually kicked all of this off, the NFL player who also has a progressive news channel that he kind of does this type of thing on, replied, and they got into a little argument about how force the vote is actually a good strategy, and AOC kind of just came up with some bullshit about how, you can save this type of leverage using in a moment to use for something that's actually viable, because forcing the vote on something like the Medicare for All was clearly going to lose no matter what, which is like a defeatist kind of insane thing to say, even though we're in the middle of a global pandemic and you're putting people on the record to vote against their healthcare interest, the healthcare interest of normal people. But that time is over. You can't do that anymore. But in the moment where they actually could do something about it, the squad, AOC decided to reply to Justin Jackson and say that you could apply that pressure in a later date on something like the $15 minimum wage, which is in this time now currently already been voted out of a bill by a Democratic senator a Democratic senator. Democrat voted out the $15 minimum wage from a bill, the COVID relief bill. So no leverage applied to get that either. Nothing on the scale of what Jimmy Dore was implying to do with force the vote. And that was their biggest excuse to wait and do something, was for that. So he's whether you agree with him and his tone or whatever he does with his show or whatever, I just think that, and full disclosure, I am a fan and I like what he does, but I just think that applying pressure, outside pressure on the Democratic Party to do things that the majority of people, I would call the independents of this country, want, is the simplest thing we could do. And what he was doing was totally within the realm of fine and not offensive. And anybody who's telling you that it was offensive, any of these new media types telling you that this shit was offensive, I don't even know what kind of world you live in or where you're coming from or who's telling you to say that, but it's unrealistic and just bullshit. What Jimmy Dore is saying is what a lot of other people were trying to get the Democratic Party to do, and what AOC got elected to do and has been failing to do, along with other members of the squad.
And so when someone as powerful as AOC says that, that's chilling because, independent media is under assault right now. And YouTube is using algorithms to throttle us and stifle us. And they're taking people's videos down while mainstream news is allowed to show those same videos. And we're not allowed to talk about certain topics. So when she did that, it sent a chilling effect. She's telling everybody, including Jack at Twitter, that Jimmy Dore is somehow committing violence against her. And she's somehow a victim. She won't mobilize. She has over 11 million Twitter followers, and she won't mobilize her followers to get health care or get a $15 minimum wage or get student debt relief, but she will mobilize her followers, her 11 million followers, which is a lot of people, to be snitches, to go and be a snitch on social media. That's her big activism campaign. We're entering a very dangerous era of censorship, Tucker, where the interests of Silicon Valley and the Democratic Party have merged with the Biden-Harris administration, and the establishment wants to stifle discontent by stifling speech. Right now, YouTube, which is Silicon Valley, which is in bed with the Biden administration, wants to get rid of dislikes. Why? They want to get rid of dislikes.
I mean, it does seem almost unbelievable that someone who runs against the establishment, as she did, she beat a longtime machine Democrat.
It sucks because Tucker is smart enough to understand the analysis here and relay it to people. Jimmy Dore is making a lot of sense, but at the same time, Jimmy Dore needs to work on propping up the other options. And he used to show for the People's Party, and he's not so much anymore. And I honestly don't blame him for it because they've disappointed people in a lot of ways, including on the police reform issue. But you need to come with rhetoric that is hopeful and not just totally defeatist at the same time. But I appreciate what he's saying. He's pointing it out. He's speaking the truth, and it is what it is. If you don't like it, if it hurts to hear this on a show like this, then we got to do better because it's the truth.
I'll be honest, I love seeing it. I like it when young people come up and seem to believe in something and win. I mean, I don't agree with her, but I like that. And then she immediately winds up on the side of the biggest and most powerful companies in the world. This is like the end of Animal Farm. It just didn't take long for her to switch sides, did it?
it's happening right in front of our faces, and there's people who don't want to see what's happening. And I've been the one out in front on the left telling people what's happening, that you don't change the Democratic Party, Tucker, the Democratic Party changes you. And so that's what we're witnessing. So for her to say that I was committing violence by using words to criticize her, I don't know if you've ever been hit with an adjective, but I'll take that over a bat or something. But, I don't know if I got hit in the head with a noun the other day. I had to go through the concussion protocol. I'd rather be hit with words than actual violence. Okay, because you know what's going on is that the working people in this country are on a ledge right now, and the establishment doesn't care if they fall over. And so they're using crude forms of censorship. We've seen it. We see what they wouldn't allow the Hunter Biden story to get out. And so there's way worse things are happening. So this is a chilling time right now for people like me. It's chilling when the powerful want to insulate themselves from criticism. AOC said that if you criticize Joe Biden and his administration, what message does that send to black and brown people? Well, the message I think that sends is that we're willing to stand up for black and brown people, even during a Democratic administration that is letting them down, gaslighting them, and not giving them COVID relief. That's what that means. She thinks what she's doing is using identity politics to shield them from real criticism.
That's exactly right. And I should point out to our viewers who may not understand this, that you make your living on these big platforms, on YouTube, for example. And for you to come out and say what you've said about them takes a lot of courage, I think. And I'm impressed that you're willing to do that. Too few are. Jimmy Dore, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Pratt.
Look. It sucks. It sucks that Jimmy Dore has to go on Tucker Carlson to make a point like this. You should be on Chris Hayes. You should be on Rachel Maddow. He's a lefty. At the same time, I make the argument that going on Tucker Carlson, if you're principled, which Jimmy Dore, I do believe, is principled, and he's not just bullshitting his way through this. He truly believes what he's saying, and he does a good job of tying it all in together. And is tough and doesn't get fucked around with. And if he does, he turns it into a decent enough rant against, powers that are much larger than him and much larger than you and me, that constantly go after him and his show specifically for no fucking reason other than that he spends his time criticizing them. And there's an audience for that. There's people who are out there hungry for truth in their news and truth in their news commentary, specifically where they watch their news, and he provides that to a certain degree with his show and allows it to be entertaining at the same time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with criticizing AOC, and then her going off and saying that it's violence. It's truly a crazy thing. Truly nutty. Strong disagree. Let's watch this because it looks fucking hilarious. It was hilarious.
4 nights. I'm just standing here today with soup for my family, and we're just, watching all of this unfold. It's very unfortunate.
You're not planning on using that, are you? Throwing it at the police?
Like I said, it's for my family.
Literally for your family.
Yeah.
All right.
4 nights. I'm just standing here today with soup for my family, and we're just, watching all of this unfold. It's very unfortunate.
You're not planning on using that, are you? Throwing it at the police?
Like I said, it's for my family.
Literally for your family.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh man, this guy. I hope his name doesn't get out or anything like that because that shit is too funny. It's too funny. Oh man. very good. Oh, man. What else we got going on? Anything good on the internet right now? Andy No gets clowned because he posted he's apparently posting photos from the body cam footage of Adam Toledo, which is the kid who was recently killed by police while he was running around, apparently with a fake gun or a gun, whatever. And the what he's posting essentially proves that the kid was shot while he was unarmed and had already dropped whatever he was holding, okay? The problem is his followers are already going to take that the wrong way. That guy is just absolute shit, and he's absolute dog shit trash. I can't believe that guy from Modest Mouse was into what he was talking about. Apparently Dogecoin is also on the rise. Classic. Yeah, if somebody could ever come on the stream and explain Dogecoin to me, that would be super dope, because I don't understand what the fuck is going on. I'm gonna be honest with you, I have no idea what the fuck Dogecoin even is. So please come on and explain it to me sometime. Help a guy out. Because I truly am not... I am not understanding how that works. Who is Lindsay Ellis? What is cancel culture? What are these things? Somebody explain it to me, because I'm at a loss. I don't understand. I don't understand the cancel culture. The culture of canceling. Everybody who complains. Everybody's posting this boring company.
On a major adventure. Shotgun. Okay. Wow. Here we go, guys. This is crazy. Oh my god. Mom, put your seatbelt on.
What is this?
All you need is 818. And this is a ride.
Are we going to a different dimension?
I feel like we're going to the future.
So good, you guys. On a major adventure. Shotgun.
That's scary, and it reminds me of the Willy Wonka thing. So I hate that. I hate that because it's scary. Soup for my family, dude. Oh, dude. Somebody's reposting this video.
Fight for the demands that we want. And if we want to defeat capitalism, we are going to need a party that will organize working people to fight for the demands that we want and to win socialism. Thank you so much.
Quick point of privilege. Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on.
Oh my god, dude. Same, though. Literally, like, as much as I want to make fun of this shit, because it is fucking, it's so easy to just clown on this. It is so corny. I get it. It's bait, but I will say that is me as fuck. I was looking into, you can buy these earplugs that plug out certain noise, but it keeps you so you can hear people talking and stuff to you. And apparently people use them for work and they're really good. I don't know.
It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Okay.
If we want to defeat capitalism, we are going to need a
That was... It's so cringe to watch, dude. Oh, that's the worst thing, dude. It's so bad. Not good. Oh my god. I'm seeing some crazy stuff on the timeline right now. Some stuff I can't watch. TOS. Got U6.
And yet here we are 20 some odd years later. You look remarkably young.
Yeah, I mean, it feels crazy. Our, Inside Out was going up when I was 20 years old, and fuck, I just can't believe it. I'm just so grateful all the years on the road. I think sobriety has actually helped me really recapture the fountain of youth.
You might say you're alt-rock's Benjamin Button.
I have been called that time and time again. People yell that at me outside of their car windows and stuff.
Those nails
Really
are
wild
good.
for those that don't know the U6.
Ugh, what's... There's some funny shit. I'm looking through some game ranks videos to see what's goody. Oh.
You guys know we like making lists here. Well, we got a big one today for you PC gamers. These are the top 35 games coming to PC throughout 2021. The ones we're really paying attention to. There's a lot, so we gotta get going, but just note, games like Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, and Hogwarts Legacy, to name a few, are delayed to 2022. Still, we got a lot, so let's get started off with number 35 and talk about The Day Before. This is a very interesting hybrid style game where at first glance it looks like The Division, but they add some zombies and some MMO elements, and what you have is a really ambitious recipe for something cool. The developers have been pretty forthcoming. They've shown us lots of gameplay. We've seen combat, we've seen working with other players, we've seen fighting off the zombies, we've seen looting in the open environments, and it's kind of like a no-brainer. Like, why haven't we gotten a lot more games like this before? One part MMO, one part The Division, one part The Last of Us, kind of mixing a bunch of things together. This has a lot of potential. The initial gameplay trailer made a big splash, so we're keeping an eye on it and we're hoping that it releases this year. Next, over at number 34, we have another ambitious game called Manor Lords. This is a medieval strategy game for PC, a genre that I know many PC gamers really love. But this one, of course, has big, huge, large-scale tactical battles, but also city-building elements. So it's a very cool, creative marriage of two concepts that PC gamers have been proven to love. Very realistic, medieval, accurate battles, the strategy that comes with that, but mixed with the strategy that comes with building up a settlement, then a town, then a city. That can be a really addicting recipe if you ask me. It is going to be releasing seemingly in early access this year, and we're excited to see what comes of it. Next, over at number 33, we have Outriders, billed as another kind of third-person shooter, action-centric, next-generation game. This was pushed, but now we know we're going to see it in 2021, and it's going to have a home on PC as well as the next-gen consoles, and it seems interesting. It's from the developers People Can Fly. They have a track record for making great shooters. Bulletstorm is still one of my all-time favorites, and this one, although at a glance it looks generic, the more you watch the gameplay, the kind of abilities that the characters have, and just third-person action does make it stand out. We're hoping that the fact that this game gets a little more time in the oven is just going to make it even more special. This is currently slated to release on Steam April 1st, 2021. Next up at number 32, we have Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, which looks like it could potentially be the definitive Lego Star Wars game. This thing is going to cover a lot of ground, spanning a lot of Star Wars movies, with a big new emphasis on just big action moments, cinematic stuff, comedy, really shockingly great visuals. The Lego games always really surprise me like that, and it seems like they're possibly trying to capitalize on just the amount of love there is for the Lego Star Wars series. There's nostalgia there, of course, but I'm curious to see if this new one can really back it up in the gameplay department and just be a ton of fun. Early previews and press who've gotten their hands on it have said good things about it. This one has been pushed and delayed quite a bit, but we're looking forward to checking it out this year. Next, over at number 31, we have Humankind, which is billed as a historical strategy game, which looks downright beautiful. It's being published by Sega and developed by Amplitude Studios, the folks behind Endless Space, and this looks like almost like something that can compete with Civilization but bring some new and exciting ideas to the table. It's got a little bit of a different flair to it, a different vibe to it, and if you ask me, as somebody who loves Civilization, I would love to see that big video game franchise challenged by a little guy. There's an emphasis on history here and changing it and cultures and kind of molding them together to create like your own new custom thing, and I'm just excited to see where that can go in the gameplay department. As of right now, Humankind is slated for April 2021. Next, over at number 30, we have Chivalry 2. If you like being a medieval dude and going on castle sieges and killing people with swords and pikes and axes, Chivalry 2 looks to really kind of up the action, and in their description kind of give you that movie-like experience of just high-quality, cinematic, medieval, brutal battles. This is first-person and multiplayer focused, and we're really excited to see what they can do with this, considering Mordhau released on PC and people loved it and it really kind of changed the game. So Chivalry 2 has to really step up. We'll know for sure when it releases summer of 2021. Next at number 29, we have Ghostwire Tokyo. This is an action-adventure horror-themed game developed by Tango Gameworks and published by Bethesda. It was revealed at E3 2019 and of course made a big splash because Tango Gameworks, horror, Shinji Mikami being involved. But interestingly enough, as time has gone on, it's been revealed to be a first-person game. It seems very creative, it seems wildly out there. The creative director has actually moved on from the project onto something else. We're wondering if there's a direction shift. Still, the concept seems pretty cool, dealing with ghosts in a neon-lit Tokyo, but we still want to see a lot more from this game before we get super excited for it. We do know it is releasing October of 2021. Next, over at number 28, we have Starfield. Yes, we're putting this on this list just to be hopeful. Is Bethesda's next big RPG this new...
Dude, if this thing plays out anything like the Outer Worlds, I'm gonna be so pissed, okay? There's no way this is gonna be good, okay? I'm hoping, like, I want it to run on a new engine and shit. That would be awesome, but I have very, very low hopes for the, like, any Bethesda outing.
IP, this sci-fi epic, going to be out this year? We don't know for sure. We know Bethesda is also working on the next Elder...
To be fair, I should have levied that same disappointment towards CD Projekt Red, because I tried playing Cyberpunk again the other day, and I've put in well over like 40 hours, you know, maybe more of time into that game. And I just haven't progressed. I get distracted, then I get bored, and then I turn it off. I can't even like do a main mission because I have this weird FOMO of not doing the the side missions in the correct order. It just sucks. Oh, damn it.
You guys,
where were we?
One. Next, over at number 28, we have Starfield. Yes, we're putting this on this list just to be hopeful. Is Bethesda's next big RPG, this new IP, this sci-fi epic, going to be out this year? We don't know for sure. We know Bethesda is also working on the next Elder Scrolls game, but that's even further off. We know Starfield is coming first. Is it going to be 2021? Who knows, dude? This is like the one big question mark on this list, but we wanted to include it because if it does come out in 2021, that could make for a pretty good holiday season. Next, over at number 27, we have Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This is the sequel to the absolutely fantastic Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, and from what we've seen of this game, it looks downright incredible. The story looks to be taking an even darker turn considering where the first story went. We've seen some insane visuals. It has been a highlight of the Xbox Series X and that whole thing, but we know that it is also releasing on PC, and we're really excited to get our hands on it. We're guessing, and we're also hoping, that this game gets dated for 2021 pretty soon. But next, over at number 26, we have Everspace 2. This released early in 2021, so of course we had to include it because it has taken the world by storm. It is a deep, fun, engaging, lengthy, single-player, first-person space experience. If you love exploring space, crafting, engaging in RPG stats and elements like that, Everspace 2 looks to keep you busy for a long time. It has been very well received, and technically I believe it's still in early access, so there's more to come. It's not really totally like any of the games I'm about to mention, but if you're into anything from Elite Dangerous to No Man's Sky, you might really owe it to yourself to check out Everspace 2. Next, over at number 25, we have Evil Genius 2 World Domination. This is being developed and published by Rebellion, the people behind the very awesome Sniper Elite series. These games are very interesting and very creative. Where Tropico takes a nice spin on City Builder, Evil Genius does the same type of evil spin on you being a villain, building out your secret lair. Whether it's like a top secret laboratory on an island or just an evil dungeon in a volcano, the possibilities are endless and it's just really cool and it's a refreshing idea. The first one was, and we're hoping the second one continues that trend. Evil Genius 2 World Domination is releasing on March 30th, 2021. Next, over at number 24, we have The Ascent. This is a single-player and co-op focused top-down RPG shooter. The action seems pretty nuts, especially with some really cool effects going on, and just the world design itself, because it is cyberpunk inspired. Not inspired by Cyberpunk the game, but Cyberpunk the concept. That's a very important distinction. So if you did get a taste of Cyberpunk with that game that we've all been talking about so much, and you want something a little bit different here that takes that concept even further, The Ascent might be a fun action romp that you might want to consider in 2021. Next, at number 23, we have The Outlast Trials. This is the next Outlast game. It is, however, a prequel based around Cold War experiments, and honestly, it's been pretty mysterious since this game has been announced, but we're excited to see what Red Barrels comes up with. They kind of always deliver on the Outlast department, and if they're branching out and trying something a little bit new and a little bit different, we're definitely going to be willing to give it a shot. The Outlast Trials is coming sometime in 2021. Now down to number 22, speaking of another one that was announced a long time ago, we have Scorn. This is that horror first-person shooter game very much inspired by the art of H.R. Giger. On consoles, it is exclusive to Xbox Series X and S, but on PC, we're going to be able to play it. That's where I'm probably going to play it, because it very much looks like a game focused on visuals and atmosphere. This is a game I want to get right up in my monitor screen with some good headphones, the graphics turned up to 11, and then I just get spooked. They've been working on this game for a really long time. It's still labeled TBD, but we're thinking 2021 is finally going to be the year, considering they've started to roll out marketing again. Next, over at number 21, we have Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake. Now, this game was announced for all platforms in 2020 amid some skepticism by fans. Our first look at the game, it looked a little rough, if I'm being honest. But I think a remake of Sands of Time, a game that necessarily doesn't need a remake, but hey, you know, a new reason to play it, a new shiny coat of paint. The game really needs the love it deserves, and we want to give Ubisoft and the developers specifically making this game props for deciding to delay it for quite a bit. We don't want to rush them. I think a game like Sands of Time needs all that love and care, but there is a possibility we could see it in 2020-2021, so we wanted to mention it. Now down to number 20, we have Little Nightmares 2. This game released in early February, and we just want to say, man, definitely go play it. If you love short but fun horror experiences like Limbo or Inside, Little Nightmares 2 really scratches that itch and then some. Not to mention the first game as well. It plays with horror tropes you've seen before in interesting new ways. It has some fun puzzle platforming, some incredible visuals. Definitely play it with headphones. It's not the scariest game, but it is an unsettling game, and you should check it out. Next, down to 19, we have State of Decay 3, a game that, to be honest, to this day, we still don't know too much about. We know it's coming exclusively on consoles to Xbox, but we're gonna get it on PC. And all we've gotten is a cinematic trailer with a winter theme and a hint of zombie animals. That's all we got. Honestly, like I've said before, State of Decay 2 has come a long way. Undead Labs has really kind of played with this type of genre that they've kind of come up with, and we're excited to see where they take it with a third outing. Next, over at number 18, we have Everwild. This is the new Rare game. This is an open world RPG.
Did this come out? This looks really good too.
With a fantasy style and a new world they're building that we've never really seen before, and it looks cool. It looks creative, but it's also early. We're just excited to see what Rare can do with this. They've been obviously very busy on something like Sea of Thieves. It's nice to see them branch out and do some sort of cool, worldly, fantasy, chill, lo-fi world game. It's been pretty secretive, but we're hoping that we see this game in 2021.
Yeah.
Next, down to number 17, we have Stalker 2. We're so excited to get a follow-up to the Stalker games because these are like the PC gamers game. What this game originally did back in the day with RPG elements, first-person elements, survival elements, and post-apocalyptic elements. I just said elements a lot, but what it does with all of these things was awesome, and now there's so many other games that take these ideas and run with them. We're excited to see what Stalker 2 can do to move it forward again. We've got some little glimpses here and there. The game's been in development for quite some time. We've got some looks and some showcases at the graphics, but as of the time of making this video, we don't know too much. Still, it is definitely one to keep an eye on. Next at number 16, Atomic Heart, the BioShock-inspired game, but with a weird Soviet side.
I'm definitely gonna stream this game, 100%. I'm so excited for this one.
Sci-fi spin. We've been keeping our eye on this one for a while, and we think 2021 is definitely going to be the year. Lots of melee combat, but lots of stuff that's going to make you think. Incredible environment and level and enemy design, not to mention more of an open world design, which is pretty interesting. We're betting on Atomic Heart. We think it has a lot of potential. We've made videos on it before, and it is slated for a release on all the major consoles and PC worldwide this year. Down to number 15, Biomutant, a game that we've been following for a long time, finally has a release date. After many delays and it getting pushed, it's finally releasing May 25th, 2021. This is an open world action adventure RPG where you build out your own little critter character, adventure through an open world, find loot, and fight enemies with guns and swords. To be honest, it sounds like a lot of elements we've seen in previous games, but just the presentation and the real concept of it seems unique and a bit different, and we're always itching for different, so we're definitely going to be playing this one. But down to number 14, we have Age of Empires 4. This one has been silent for a while, but this is the big one. We know Xbox and Microsoft are developing this. We know we're going to be able to play it on PC. We know that they've also been spending a lot of time releasing and remastering the old games, most specifically recently Age of Empires 1 and 2. What is this new one going to bring? How big is it going to be? How crazy is it? As of the time of making this video, we haven't heard too much new about it, but we're still excited. Microsoft has still said that they are still working on it. There is a community behind this game. We're just curious to see when it comes out. We're thinking 2021, and it could be awesome. Now down to number 13, we have Ruined King. This is that League of Legends RPG. Essentially what you do in this game is engage in a story in this world. You gather up a bunch of League of Legends champions and go on a quest with turn-based RPG combat. You get the art style, you get the lore, you get the world building, you get the atmosphere of League of Legends, but with a cool new turn-based RPG presentation. I'm really curious to see what they can do with this one. Riot, of course, has been very focused on specifically League of Legends, but now they are branching out quite a bit, and I'm just excited to see if they can introduce awesome genres of games to League of Legends fans who typically only play one or two types of things. Ruined King, a League of Legends story, could be that when it releases in 2021. Next at number 12, we have Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This one, I'll admit, has kind of been delayed quite a bit. There's been some behind-the-scenes stuff with people working on the game leaving, but putting all that aside, if this does come out this year, it could be pretty awesome. The trailers we've seen, the little glimpses of gameplay we've seen, just the pedigree alone, the previous game. There's a lot riding on Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2. It is, of course, the sequel to a really excellent first-person PC RPG. We don't get enough of those, especially not ones with vampires in it. We're hoping this one still squeaks by in 2021. Now, over at number 11, we have Resident Evil Village. We're going from vampires to werewolves. This is the follow-up to Resident Evil 7, of course, where you once again are playing in first person as Ethan Winters. It looks like something is up where your kid is stolen for some sort of ritual. You go to a weird village. There are evil vampire ladies and bug ladies, and they're all hot. This game just looks absolutely insane. From the action to the horror elements to the inventory management to the survival elements, everything about it is what I want as a Resident Evil fan, especially considering we get to see the real Chris Redfield again. But he's up to no good. We can't wait to see where this mystery goes. Honestly, we've talked this game to death, but it's releasing May 7th, 2021. Down to number 10, we have New World. This is a new MMORPG developed by Amazon Game Studios. You've probably heard about this one. We've talked about it in the past. It did have a 2020 release date, but it was pushed. The concept seemed really cool. The art style seems really cool. We're just curious to see what they can do with this, especially because Amazon Game Studios is a bit new, and their first attempt is an MMORPG, something that is a genre that is notoriously hard to crack, not to mention for a newcomer on the block. Still, we're excited to see where it goes. We're excited to see what Amazon money can do. We're excited to see what their engine can do, because their previous attempts have kind of fizzled out a little bit. New World is coming in 2021, and we're gonna jump in, definitely. Next, over at number 9, we have Gotham Knights. This is an interesting new Arkham-style game that technically does not take place in the Arkham universe, but instead focuses on a new story and world where Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon are dead. And it's up to the Bat family to team together, punch a bunch of dudes, engage in RPG elements and loot, and save the day in an open-world Gotham. This honestly looks kind of cool. Once you can get over the fact that Batman isn't in the game, which was hard, and once you get over the fact that it is built a little bit around co-op, the actual moment-to-moment combat, the traversal, and some of the story stuff and presentation seems pretty enticing to me as a Batman fan. To be honest, not enough people have been exposed to the Bat family and the cool stories that come with it. WB Games Montreal is releasing this in 2021. Next at number 8, we have Elden Ring, the new From Software open-world RPG, which was announced, and J.R.R. Martin is helping work on the story, and we don't know anything else about it, and it's driving the internet insane. Everybody is, of course, clamoring for the next From Software game. The developers behind Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, you name it. This has potential. Obviously, maybe you should bet on it, but we're still really clamoring for some information. They've gone quiet, dude. Hopefully, they just come out and say, hey, here's the game, here's a trailer, it's out next month. We would love to see that in 2021. It would make us very happy. Down to number 7, though, we have Halo Infinite. This is a game that was slated to release in 2020 for PC and the launch of the new Xbox Series X, and it was delayed. A lot of people were not happy with the initial game reveal, so the developers have gone back to the table to really work on the game, and we're thinking that it's gonna definitely show up in 2021. The single-player campaign is, of course, focusing on larger environments, and of course, we're also getting a bunch of multiplayer. But the ball is really in Halo's court. Since Halo was king, a lot of new games have come out and really dominated and really captured mainstream audiences. And it's up to Halo to kind of bring things back to basics and maybe bring everyone on board again. Can they do it? We don't know, but we're definitely sitting from the sidelines eating popcorn.
I'll play Halo.
Down to number 6, we have Back 4 Blood. This is a co-op first-person shooter from the people behind Left 4 Dead. Yeah, man. So basically, if you heard that and you thought of something, yes, that's exactly what you're getting. Now, Turtle Rock Studios, the developers, did previously work on Evolve, but we're definitely thinking this time around they get their own spin on things and they get to go back to what they really excel at, and that is shooting zombies with some friends. The weapons look cool, the gore looks cool, the effects look cool, and to be honest, I think this is just a game we need right now, and it's releasing on all the consoles and PC June 18th, 2021. Down to number 5, we have Deathloop. This is a Bethesda-published game that is a PlayStation 5 console exclusive that is also on PC. And honestly, this type of game we think belongs on PC because it's developed by Arcane, the folks behind Dishonored and Prey. We like the concepts, we like the flow of their game, so we're really excited to see what they can do with the Deathloop, considering the premise is very interesting. There's kind of this endless fight, this battle between two assassins, kind of a repeating time loop, Groundhog's Day type of thing, and we've seen a lot of things that really caught our eye, like cool weapon designs, character and enemy designs, world designs, just an interesting sci-fi spin and vibe that we're itching to play, especially with a mouse and keyboard. Also, we just love action and adventure games, so there's that too. We're going to be playing this May 21st, 2021. Now down to number 4, another game that released on PC not too long ago is Hitman 3. This is the third game in the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy, where they kind of blew up the level design and opened up the freedom and let you kind of do whatever you want in these endlessly replayable sandbox levels, and we think this third entry is where it all really clicks and come together. As an old school, very traditional Hitman fan, it took a long time for these games to win me over, and Hitman 3 finally did. There's a little bit of story agency that they inject into the levels, but they are still creative and fun and endlessly replayable, where you just kind of make your own memorable moments, and it's incredibly satisfying. Not to mention that, it also just looks downright insane on PC. Consider getting it, turning up those graphics, because wow, it is something else. IO Interactive are just great developers, and we're excited to see what they're going to do next after this. Now down to number 3, we have Far Cry 6, a game that has been delayed, but we think we're going to see at some point in 2021. This is a first-person action, open-world first-person shooter, very much like any other Far Cry game, and it takes place on a fictional Caribbean island of Yara, apparently loosely inspired by Cuba because there is some civil unrest. You engage in that, and you take that fight to the dictator, who is played none other than Giancarlo Esposito, aka Moff Gideon, aka Gustavo Fring, aka the perfect villain. We're really excited to see where this goes, including the way guerrilla tactics are implemented and the game world having its own city within it, the biggest that we've seen in a Far Cry game. Is this going to be enough to finally make Far Cry break from the formula again like Far Cry 3 did? Is this new Far Cry 6 going to feel revolutionary? No pun intended. We'll find out for sure when we get our hands on it, either the second quarter or the third quarter of 2021. Down to number 2, we have Dying Light 2, another game we have been foaming at the mouth for so long, another game that has been delayed quite a bit, but considering Dying Light was a fantastic experience on PC that was supported for years and years, you should still pick it up because there's so much good content in there. Dying Light 2 really blows it out of the water with how your decisions shape the world, with how they focused on storytelling and world building this time around. The potential for this game seems really high. We still argue that the original Dying Light is extremely underrated, and with the way Dying Light 2 seems to be blowing things out of the water, like I said, this could reach like Game of the Year levels. Is that ambitious on my part? I don't know. I just really like zombie parkour games. The developer publisher Techland has admittedly been pretty quiet on this game for a while, but we're expecting to see it in 2021. Now down to number 1, we have Valheim. We're mentioning it at number 1 just because as of the time of making this video, it is blowing up and it seems to be pretty popular for the right reasons. It's a high quality survival game. Every so often, every year or so, a new survival game hits the market and takes the PC crowd by storm. And Valheim is the newest one because it has this cool Viking theme, some creative building, some enemy encounters, a focus on PvE, and just a really interesting and weird visual design. It's proved divisive, but we think it's really cool. It's already sold like over 2 million units. It is in early access, but doesn't feel like half-assed early access. And frankly, as people who are a little skeptical of just the endless pile of survival games, we have found this one pretty fun so far. Those are all the 2021 PC games to pay attention to. Those are 35, but we do have 2 bonuses for you. We also have the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, of course, and Near Replicant version 1.224744, etc., etc. You get the gist. We'd love to know what you guys are playing on PC in 2021, what you're expecting to pick up. Please let us know in the comments because we tailor our videos around what games interest you guys. Let's talk about anything PC gaming in 2021. If you enjoyed this video though, and maybe you learned something, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. And if you're new, maybe consider subscribing, hit that notification bell because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Did Game Ranks not review The Forest, dude? No. I'm down to watch the Valheim one, but
you're desperate to figure things out, and it can be pretty rough and challenging.
I've been dumped in the middle of a foreboding, eerily quiet wilderness, like you typically are in open-world survival games. As I make my way to the nearest coast, I'm startled out of my foraging by a bestial grunt, and prepare to
Hey everyone, it's Peter Brown reading Alessandro Barbosa's review of The Forest. The broad premise of The Forest is far from unique. A plane crash lands on a seemingly deserted island, and you, a lone survivor, have to figure out a way to survive. It's not long, however, until this familiar setup turns an unexpected corner, and the forest evolves into a uniquely harrowing adventure that you won't soon forget.
Oh. Ugh. Ew, this seems...
Blood-curdling screeches fill the night, and glowing eyes watch you from a distance. Your new home island isn't as empty as it appears. Cannibals inhabit the grassy fields and pristine lakes around you, watching your every move. They're the source of the forest's ever-present tension. You might expect mindless monsters like this to attack on sight, but their behavior is erratic. Sometimes they'll charge forward to unsettle you during daylight, but stop just outside striking distance to simply stare at you in silence. Other times they might feign a retreat before leaping up into surrounding trees and getting behind you. The settlement you eventually create is invaded by waves of larger, more imposing foes, who you pray will retreat as you thin their numbers. The forest enemies aren't easy to predict, which makes each encounter a thrill. The breadth of enemy types is impressive too, and the forest doesn't stray from leaning into the weird either. As you explore the island more and dive into terrifying pitch-black caverns, enemies transform into terrifying body horror figures, amalgamations of appendages that bellow deep, disturbing howls. They're frightening to behold and even scarier to fight. The forest does a good job of trickling out these surprises while you're already struggling to manage vital meters and resources. It's also imperative that you keep a close eye on the quality of the resources you find. Not every berry bush contains a bounty that won't poison you, and not all still water is safe to drink. Meat you gather from hunted animals will rot if not cooked quickly. None of the resulting illnesses are serious enough to dissuade you from eating questionable food to stave off death, but needing to think twice about what you eat adds an additional layer to the standard hunter-gatherer gameplay.
I'll put the leg on. Oh wait, never mind.
Base construction is equally engrossing due to the sheer number of structures you're able to build. The forest doesn't gate its creative building with elusive blueprints. Instead, from the outset, it gives you a notebook filled with outlines for structures. Knowing how to build shelters, gardens, and defenses isn't the challenge the forest wants to impose. Instead, it shifts this onto the risky task of acquiring resources to build it all. Chopping down trees for logs or scouting a route to clean water is paramount in your first few days on the island. And once you establish yourself, this goal shifts to fortifying your position with complex spike traps and tree swings, the construction of which is deeply satisfying. Building has a tangible effect on the island in several ways. Resources like small game and shrubs will respawn over time, but larger trees will remain felled for the entirety of your stay. You might turn a dense forest into an open field of stumps not long after you start, but that'll also give enemies a clear line of sight into your doings. The more you impose yourself on the island, the more aggressive your aggressors become. Patrols will grow, and the more monstrous creatures will emerge from their caves for an all-out assault. The forest doesn't force you to play in any specific way though, so a more reserved, nomadic approach is sometimes safer and more viable. Crafting smaller items plays a big part when it comes to personal safety too. Your inventory screen allows you to combine items you've collected to create new tools, from something as simple as combining a few sticks and stones to make an axe, to creating high-powered explosives using a combination of wristwatches, electrical boards, and spare change. The number of items you can both collect and craft is vast, but the inventory page eventually becomes cumbersome and overwhelming to navigate, and with only 4 customizable hotkeys, you don't actually have a lot of easy access to what you want in a pinch. At the very least, the forest never feels too overbearing. You'll always be able to depend on your crafted weapons as they aren't hampered by durability. Your pocket lighter will help you see in the dark, never running out of vital fluid either. This frees you from the burden of worrying about the lifespan of any potential upgrades you can make. You're incentivized to craft upgrades to weapons that improve their damage and speed, while other combinations let you create more illuminating torches with limited burning times. Exploration in survival games is usually tied only to your immediate well-being, but the forest features a narrative slowly uncovered by exploration and incidental environmental storytelling. Abandoned camps are a great hunting ground for modern resources, but they also hint at past events. Cannibal villages feature gory displays of victims, but also contain vital clues. Small photographs, videotapes, and magazines that flesh out a conspiracy with the island at the center.
There's a kid there.
Weird.
The forest doesn't have to be a lonely experience, and it offers cooperative play for up to 8 people. The time spent getting a fortified settlement up and running is drastically reduced then, but remains just as compelling. Cooperative play does, however, deflate tension. Larger groups of enemies become easier to deal with, and the fear of diving into caves alone is undercut by both voice chat and the fact that enemies don't really scale according to your party size. The forest might be silly fun with friends, but it's best when playing alone.
Guys, I got this.
Jesus! Jesus, Rob!
Guys, take a break. I got this. Sit this one out, guys.
There's a lot to think about when it comes to surviving in the forest, but the balance between each of its interlocking parts keeps the game moving at a riveting pace. For every danger the island offers, there's a smart solution around a corner. Combined with unpredictable enemy actions and captivating horror set pieces, the forest strikes a compelling balance between survival and horror.
Challenging. There are really blown up on Steam the past few days, and it seems to be taking the survival game world by storm. It's a new early access title called Valheim. It's open world, it's pretty massive, and you can mess around with up to 10 players in it. Now, every so often a game comes completely out of nowhere and tops the charts on Steam, and we take a dive into it and see what's up. So today, it's going to be this, Valheim. You know, a few of us here at GameRanks have captured our early gameplay sessions on PC here, so you can get the gist of it, but to be honest, we've only just barely scratched the surface. Think of this not quite as like a deep critical before you buy review video, but more of just like a what is this? Why did it blow up? And of course, where it's going and what it can do, because it is still very much in early access. Valheim launched early access on February 2nd, 2021. It's asking for a $20 US buy-in, and it has already crossed 1 million sold. It has also seen reportedly 160,000 peak concurrent players and a big 127,000 peak viewers on Twitch. This is the game's first week. That's pretty insane and very, very good for a more indie-style survival game that seemingly kind of came out of nowhere. But anyway, it's developed by Iron Gate Studio. It's their first game, and apparently it's a Swedish studio founded by 2 gaming industry veterans, and it shows, man. Valheim feels like a really high-quality survival game already, but I'll get more into how far along it is in a bit. Now, firing up the game when you jump in, basically, you create a character with some pretty simple character creation tools. Nothing too over the top or nothing too overly simplified. You know, you're not doing crazy stuff like giving yourself a big head or a crazy nose or blue skin or anything like that. You just create some variation of a Viking-style person. Then you drop into a world either alone or one with up to 10 friends, and nicely enough, you can run a persistent server world too. You're dumped into a procedurally generated open world, and it's time to do survival game stuff, but with a Viking theme. It's also PvE focused, so it's really about you and your friends slaying monsters and building together and stuff. You, of course, start out naked and you find some sticks, find some rocks, eventually make your way to a crafting bench, and then you can start building out a shelter. These shelters can eventually become mead halls and impressive little compounds if you're up to it. You need to eat, so early on, of course, you need to hunt and cook food on the fire, and then eventually you'll be able to craft a bow to more efficiently hunt and cook on a fire, but then eventually you can get to the point where you can farm and could just come up with bigger production operations to make your life a little easier. You craft tools to use, weapons, furniture, and you can then repair and improve or upgrade certain items too, depending on if you've learned the ability to do so, and of course, if you have all the resources. It's the seemingly endless loop of consistently improving and growing and making your life in this hostile world incrementally a little bit easier that is satisfying. It's absolutely not the first game to do this. This did not invent it, but they do it pretty damn well here. And the survival elements are worth noting. They're not insanely overwhelming or demanding. You know, you need to eat. It gets your health up. There are certain buffs and benefits you get depending on where you are or what you're doing, if you're cold, if you're well rested, but you're not constantly juggling a bunch of meters like you're just constantly hungry and feeding your guy and giving him water, and there's a thirst meter and a bathroom meter like he's like a little toddler you have to take care of. It's nothing like that. It's streamlined, but not in a way that makes it feel like less of a survival experience, you know? Oh, and I forgot to mention, you also have skills that you are leveling up. Basic stuff for everything you do, like running, blocking, fighting. All of that has skill levels that you can increase and level up simply by doing. The more you chop down a tree, the better you get at it. The more you do stuff, the better you get at it. That's the simple, straightforward RPG skill way that some games do, and they're doing it here, and it's surprisingly satisfying. I like it as a system. Now, you want to get better stuff. You want to efficiently have food and supplies. You want to have some extra breakable weapons stored up. You want armor. You want all of your friends geared up because you're going to want to venture out into the world and maybe either establish a new homestead deeper into it with, you know, maybe a different environment or more near stuff. But you also most notably want to find shrines, which, when given the proper sacrifice, trigger challenging bosses that are like otherworldly prey you need to defeat. And they can take teamwork with friends and just proper survival game preparedness. The game really justifies you crafting a bunch of stuff, storing stuff, because you're going to need it for these enemies. Now, the context of this is that you are a dead warrior who is dumped by the Valkyries into the Norse purgatory-type 9th world of Valheim. That's literally actually how the game starts. A Valkyrie flies in and drops you off. And in this world, there are Odin's ancient rivals that you need to find and defeat to make everything better. Now, look, I'm kind of butchering this stuff because Norse mythology is not my strong suit, I'm not gonna lie, but it's there as a setup and makes for an interesting aesthetic. There's a lot of cool stuff they do with the ancient language and stuff, which is cool. And if I am on the topic of languages, the game has a bunch of language support, but it also has community language support for languages that are out there that the game does not officially support. The developers have allowed the community to support, and they have a whole list on their Steam page if maybe your native language is something that isn't usually supported in mainstream games. There are fan translations that are supported by the game. The developers have said that they can't officially verify every single one, how accurate they are, but they are there, and that support is pretty cool, and it's nice to see. But what I was talking about was the setup, the story. You being dropped off by the Valkyries, you're in this world, you have to slay these beasts. This is the core, vague framework of giving you something to really do. But there are still regular animals to hunt and enemies to fight out there, from weird forest goblins to big trolls and other stuff, and the combat is pretty simple, but it works with some good feedback. You can block either with a weapon or a shield you can craft, you can strike, and you can dodge and roll. It feels kind of like melee combat in Elder Scrolls Online, but a little bit less MMO-y, if that makes sense. Still, you will earn abilities as you progress that then you can also activate with cooldowns. This game, like many in this genre, is better with friends. I think that's kind of obvious, but you know, this isn't really much of a solo experience. It's fun to figure out the game with someone else and just venture deeper into areas and different woods and stuff and discover little surprises. Plus, if you get crazy enough, like I said, you can build mead halls, you can craft mead, you can even build a boat and sail across the water and go out even further. And that building is very comprehensive and pretty fun. It can be a little finicky here and there, you might fight with it a bit, but it's really impressive how much there is, even early on, and what you can build once you kind of figure it all out and how things go together. You can also destruct and alter buildings that you find in the environment. So my partner and I, when we were playing, our go-to strategy was to find an abandoned old hut and break down some of the old walls and destroy the rotted roof and then add some rooms and a fresh roof and essentially renovate it with resources we found. It's cool. It's a quick, simple, tiny little thing, but it was something that we really found quirky and enjoyable. Also, I can't believe I got this far in and I haven't talked about the graphics. I think, personally, you know, this is my personal opinion, but I think they're amazing. Some folks might see this in a video and go, looks like an old game. That's kind of the point they're making here with this art style, this low poly, textured, stylized characters and stuff. But on the flip side, with like incredible draw distances, a massive skybox ripped right out of Viking lore, downright incredible lighting effects where you get like a sunrise through the trees that looks hyper real, and some color palette and stylization stuff with the atmosphere and the effects and the volumetric fog combined just make it look unlike anything we've ever seen in a game. This game is the perfect showcase that it's not always just about raw graphical power and hyper-realistic looking characters with pores that can stretch. Sometimes it's just about damn good art design and direction. You have to have it running in front of you on a machine, on a monitor, to really appreciate it. The game isn't too demanding, but you can really crank it up, and it can run pretty smoothly, especially considering it's an early access game. We had a few little weird glitches here and there, but nothing that seemed to be cause for alarm. The visuals, along with some great day and night cycle effects and scenario changes, coupled with some weather and some great music, just really make this feel like one of the higher quality survival game experiences. This thing feels higher quality. It's got some good, interesting production value to it, considering at its core, it's very simple and kind of understated. Now again, it is early access, so what does that mean exactly? Well, we know from the developers' words on that feature-wise, this game is 75% complete, and content-wise, it is about 50% complete. That's what they say. There are 5 biomes, but they're planning on rolling out a total of 9. More items, more enemy types, more bosses, more armor and clothing, different weapons, and more importantly, different weapon types to mess around with are apparently planned to be continually added, as well as way more building options, which is cool. Apparently this is going to be over the course of a year or more, depending on player feedback, which, to be fair, so far the devs seem to be pretty transparent and listen to the community, especially as it rapidly explodes. Good luck, guys. They also recommend between 3 and 5 players as like the ideal experience, and after squaring off with more dangerous enemy types and some bosses, I definitely agree that that would probably be the ideal lineup. But even if it's just you and one other goofball, I think you're gonna have some fun here. I also want to add personally, as someone who has a bit of like a love-hate relationship with survival games, sometimes I appreciate them, sometimes I don't understand why people play them. I go back and forth, but never really fully committed to one in particular other than Minecraft back in the day. This one so far has really made an impact on me, and I'm gonna find myself playing this quite a bit more. I completely understand why it's been blowing up after diving into it for the last few days, and I would say that for you guys out there, maybe if you're like me, consider this one. I think the way it kind of gives you a rough framework where it gives you some guidance, but without holding your hand at all, like you're still very much dumped in the world and you're desperate to figure things out, and it can be pretty rough and challenging. There are
Valheim very well could be one of the most flawless early access game launches I've ever seen. To provide 100 hours of entertainment takes a lot of effort and smart designs, which sadly a heap of games lately just can't seem to get right. A lot of people aren't gonna stick around to wait for a game to just get better. So even though titles like Fallout 76, Sea of Thieves, No Man's Sky, they're actually really fun and content filled now, their launches will forever haunt them. Valheim has completely surpassed all of my expectations by just being one of the most well-polished, content-filled, fun survival games, not to mention early access titles I have ever played. I haven't felt this good about an early access game since Minecraft, and that's because that game broke every border we thought couldn't be broken. They released an early access look, just an unfinished version of the game that was so friggin' good and addicting that it did something both good and bad for gaming. It inspired more people to release their early access games. Now, I'm not gonna deny that there's been a lot of good early access titles released, but there have also been many, many more that just wanted that instant success to be the next Minecraft. And so they boasted insane amounts of content, and in the end, it was nothing what they said it'd be. Those, my friends, are the lies and failures of early access games that turned a lot of us away from even bothering to buy them anymore. But then, Valheim. I was definitely skeptical at first, but ESO over here told me, hey, this game is really good, you should play it. And me, wanting to look cool, said, sure. And then I played it for 14 hours straight. Valheim is the best possible survival game outcome you can get if you're not wanting to play a game full of chores. None of the tasks are grueling and make you beyond bored. When you dismantle your ugly house because, well, it's ugly, you get every single part back to rebuild it probably still ugly, but less ugly. Valheim is about fun at its core. It never boasted to be the next Minecraft. It never advertised itself as the greatest early access title or said, hey, you buy this game, you'll get a free little Viking hat. It says, oh yeah, I bought Valheim. You know what Valheim did do? It made a dang good fun game that's an experience you don't want to miss. In my 100 hours, I've explored the far reaches of the world, which, by the way, is procedurally generated, so every single map you play can be entirely different. I've fought these absolutely massive and actually tough to kill bosses. I've sailed to dangerous regions and then accidentally brought one of those one-shotty mosquitoes onto our boat that killed my friends. I've built not one, but 7 massive bases around the map, and that's just my main bases. I have 15 other camps. The thing is, I still haven't beat the game yet. At 100 hours, actually tough to kill bosses. I've sailed to dangerous regions and then accidentally brought one of those one-shotty mosquitoes onto our boat that killed my friends. I've built not one, but 7 massive bases around the map, and that's just my main bases. I have 15 other camps. The thing is, I still haven't beat the game yet. At 100 hours, I'm still plugging away to build the confidence to venture into these horrifying zones to see what lies beyond. Because believe me, when you're playing solo and you see this, yeah, it kind of doesn't scream, get over there. Or maybe it does. Valheim has an extensive amount of content for an early access title with the promise of so much more, and it's unbelievable how much they've packed into this 1 gigabyte game. And how perfect it seems to be. I mean, I'm 100 hours in, and I've yet to run into a crash, to find any game-breaking bugs, or just break the game in general. The insanely good devs over at Iron Gate managed to create pretty much a flawless early access game, which is unheard of. And before we really dive into content, gonna put this to rest. I've tried to compare this game to so many different games at this point that I realize it's just its own thing. I'm over here on stream getting the question, what is this game like, Kevdwit? And then I babble on for 5 minutes like, oh yeah, so it's like Dark Souls, but it married Zelda, and then Minecraft was the baby, but then they also adopted Skyrim, and then all the in-laws are Ark, Rust, The Forest, and Valhalla, but then there's a Gonna be honest with you, the graphics of Valheim might be a bit of a turnoff for some people. Already got heaps of, this game bad graphics comments, and to each their own for sure, but Valheim fully embraces the PlayStation 2 graphics, and they actually look amazing. But even before you can try to criticize the graphics, Goth Big Bird airdrops you into Stonehenge and says, Valheim's combat is some of the best you'll get in a survival game. You've got your light attacks, heavy attacks, super attacks, block, dodge, parry, airstrike, stealth, and assassinations. It just goes on. And although a lot of the game focuses on survival, they absolutely did not just put slapstick combat into the game. It's very well rounded and balanced, and no matter where you are, each enemy attacks you differently. Some are more cowardly, while others are crazy aggressive. It's a great combat system with lots of different weapons and playstyles. But yeah, if I'm gonna be honest, that PvP, it's not so good. That needs a little bit of work. But the world you explore, each biome offers so much in terms of resources and rare loot, but then you take a second to just look at the places. No 2 biomes look the same. The meadows are lush and green with trees throughout. The Black Forest is this sunset all day sort of place where you'll only see the sun because it's an orange tint in the sky. And then the plains are these golden rolling hills with birch trees. The Mistlands are basically the stuff of nightmares. But each area is so unique that even when you go from a meadow through a Black Forest into another meadow, the 2 meadows feel like entirely different places. And then each area has all this stuff to do, like dungeons and crypts and troll caves. It's like having a Zelda game in a survival game. And then you've got the building. It never gets old. No matter how far I go to explore or how screwed I am in a certain area, I always take the time to build even basic camps to escape the harsh effects of being outside at night. They've got it perfect with the building besides one thing. Snapping pieces together is so precise that your hands will literally start shaking because you're so incredibly focused, and then BAM! You place it in the entirely wrong spot and your house is ruined. Just kidding, you can just destroy and try again. But honestly, the building is so good. People are already making these insane structures, and using the support beam system, it only adds more detail and personable looks to your builds. I hardly ever focus on building cool houses in games, and look at me! I'm building I don't know, but I think it looks good. And what about that survival, huh? The crafting, the cooking, the hunting, all that stuff. You could do all that stuff alone for hours on end and never get bored. They have got so much packed into this game, and nothing is forced. You never feel like you have to eat or have to find shelter. Of course, the negative effects gained from not eating or being in the cold will hurt you, but you'll never die from it. unless it's frost damage, then you'll definitely die. But then when you do dive into the survival aspect, it's addicting. There's heaps of various gear sets to craft, and the more you mine and collect, the more your character will learn to create. You'll want to make all these foods and fermented potions, various armors and weapons to prepare yourself. And why prepare? Because this game has consequences. Now, I've heard a lot of people both love and hate this system. I personally enjoy it, but how Valheim manages skill points is a lot like Oblivion, the greatest game ever created. Valheim gets rid of all the skill and attribute point allocation and focuses entirely on, you punch that tree, your unarmed is going on up. But you hit that tree with an axe, both your axe and your wood chopping skills go up. You see what I'm doing here? This game has included pretty much every single detail in leveling, where the higher your skill is in a certain area, the more damage you'll deal or the less stamina you'll consume. Dying, however, can set back some of your skill points. Not by a ton, but enough that it makes you not want to Super Meat Boy your way through this game. There was a point where my friend and I prepared for an hour to fight the third boss of the game. We had the best armor we could get, we had the fun.
GG's, y'all. I'm gonna be getting off. I'll probably pop back on if Will wants to Valheim later.